Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 2nd of March. Save our schools. Parents of St Lawrence in Ramsgate protest over merger with school 50 minutes away.
I've got a lot of questions in my head, like why, what, is it, what's going to change in the school and stuff like that, but I don't know what's going to happen, and yeah.
Bear canvases artists to decorate 86 bears that will line a Dartford trail.
So this summer we've got 86 bears in total coming to Dartford and Blue Water. We've got 30 large bears that you can see behind us that will be decorated by local and national professional artists.
And back in the green, Kent MS Therapy Centre are on course to save more lives thanks to golf.
This was this saved me when I was first diagnosed with MS, because I thought it was going to be a death sentence. If I hadn't had the centre to come to, I would have had nowhere.
But first tonight, St Lawrence School in Ramsgate has announced they'll be merging with Dover College, which they say is due to imminent financial pressures. And to show their frustration, parents protested at the school's grounds. Without the merger, the private school claimed they would have no choice but to close. But parents of students that go there say there was no correspondence between them before the decision was made. I went down to find out more.
We stand for the children who walked through these gates this morning unsure of what their future looks like. We stand for the teachers who have poured their hearts into the school and were given no warning.
Hundreds of angry parents and students marched at St Lawrence College in Ramsgate, all to protest the closure of the private school. This comes after the school's leaders said it would be moving to Dover College in September, which is more than 50 minutes away. The school said that without the merger, financial pressures meant they would have to close imminently, but the parents said it was the lack of transparency that was most difficult to bear. The parents say it wasn't a discussion, they were simply informed of the change. It may only be 16 miles, it may only be 45 minutes, but to these children, it's classrooms, it's friendships, it's teachers, it's bonds, it's mentors, and it's sports clubs. There are some children who are on sports scholarships that simply aren't put on at Dover College. There are so many questions being raised, and you can tell there is an air of unease and anxiety among the hundreds who have gathered to peacefully protest. Those hundreds, you may be asking, where are they? They're in the school grounds. Now, we can't go in there ourselves, but we've been catching up with some of these parents to hear about their views.
Is due to go into reception, so it's already at nursery here, but due to go into reception in September. And we have had all of our moving up meetings and our official offer letter, and then on Tuesday morning we found out of the blue that obviously the school is going to be merging with another school in Dover. Of course, for us it's just not appropriate to think about taking a child of reception age to Dover every single day.
But it wasn't just parents who were worried.
It's rubbish. I wanted to stay here till year 13.
But I didn't even know what happened. Like, it's a very big surprise to me. I've got a lot of questions in my head, like why, what, is it, what's going to change in the school and stuff like that, but I don't know what's going to happen, and yeah.
It's going to really affect the Ramsgate local economy and all the subsidiary firms that supply the college, etc. And plus the fact a lot of the staff actually live on site, so they would be forced out of accommodation. It's just unbelievable, really. It's been here 140 odd years.
A spokesperson for Repton Family of Schools said there is considerable upheaval in the independent school sector at the moment, with regular announcements of closures and mergers. Without immediate action, St Lawrence would regrettably have been forced to close imminently as a result of increasing costs, lower income and a historically high level of debt. This merger and the support of the Repton Family of Schools will protect the college's legacy, identity and ethos, and will ensure pupils can continue their education without the disruption that would have come from a sudden closure. For now, parents and students are using a GoFundMe to raise money for legal services, but the school remains steadfast in their decision, while questions continue to be raised about what can be done for the future, not just of the school, but of its pupils as well. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Ramsgate.
Am I reading to you?
Next, a dad from Folkestone suffered second-degree burns after a candle sparked a fire that tore through his three-bedroom home. On the 22nd of February, Alec Carmichael's personal belongings were destroyed in the fire, which has left the property uninhabitable. Mr. Carmichael lived at the home for more than 5 years, but it's been in the family for generations. Almost £2,500 has been raised to support him, with his daughter saying the funds raised will be used to replace essential items and help her father get back on his feet. Next, an arts and music venue has issued an update after they were devastated by a fire on New Year's Eve. Bosses say the Alexander Centre in Faversham has been stripped in preparation for a rebuild. This comes after the fire broke out in the roof of the Gatefold Hall, which has been used to host gigs and shows. A spokesperson for the venue has confirmed the aim is to reinstate the building on a like-for-like basis. The centre has asked people to continue booking and attending events. Next, a proposed new hotel in Dover has come under scrutiny by locals for being obtrusive and detrimental to the waterfront. The hotel, to be named the Electric Hotel, was given planning permission in 2020, but a new revision was submitted in November of 2025. The owners say the hotel market completely fell away after the proposal and that changes are necessary for the hotel to just break even. Even the Dover Society, a local civic group, say the changes make an already poor design even worse. Now, ongoing conflict in the Middle East after the Iranian supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was assassinated by Israeli and US airstrikes has left Brits, including Kent residents, stranded across the Middle East. It's been estimated that 300,000 British citizens are stuck in countries like Dubai, Iran and Cyprus after flights have been cancelled as other countries have fired missiles. But to unpack the US-Israeli affront on Iran, we were joined earlier by the University of Kent's senior lecturer in Middle East politics, Dr. Yaniv Voller. Thank you for joining us, Doctor. First of all, can you explain just what's happening in Iran at the moment?
Absolutely. So since Saturday morning, the US and Israel have been engaging in a direct war with the Iranian regime. What started as a joint US-Israeli attack on key Iranian infrastructure now seems to be escalating into a potential regional conflict with Lebanese Hezbollah taking part in the violence as well, and with the Saudis threatening to also take part in the attack on Iran in retaliation for the Iranian attack on the Saudi oil infrastructure.
Some people have described the war as illegal. In your opinion, were the US and Israel right to send these missiles to Iran?
I'm not a legal expert. I think that the legal debate revolves primarily around the question of how you define a preemptive attack. From an American and Israeli perspective, the justification for the attack is the risk of a nuclear Iran threatening to undermine regional security. The Iranians may argue that they have not directly attacked Israel since the ceasefire in the summer of 2025, after the June 2025 war. So it depends a lot on how you define the concept of a preemptive attack.
Of course, the UK has now gotten involved. Tell us a bit about how the UK have gotten involved and why exactly.
So Prime Minister Starmer was quite cautious in his statements in the last couple of days. Only yesterday he declared that Britain will not actively join the attack on Iran, but that Britain will offer its air bases in support of the American operations in Iran. Shortly after, a UK Air Force base in Cyprus was attacked by an Iranian missile, which I think risks drawing the UK more into the conflict. For the time being, I haven't seen any declaration on a significant change in British policy.
I see. Lastly from me, this has caused travel chaos across the Middle East. Thousands of Brits have been stranded in countries like Dubai. Do you have any advice for those who might be stuck in the Middle East?
It seems so far that, especially for those who got stuck in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, it seems that these governments have been well prepared for such a scenario. Based on the information coming out of these countries, the local governments have offered support for tourists that got stuck in during their holidays. They've subsidized hotel stays for those who are waiting for rescue flights. Based on previous experiences, it is likely that the UK government will eventually send rescue flights, but in the coming few days, Britons who are stuck in countries in the Middle East should follow the instructions by their local governments, make sure that they don't spend too much time outside of safe zones or sheltered areas, and try not to get engaged too much in any political activity in these countries.
Now it's time for a look at the weather. Well, tonight it looks to be quite a cold one. Lows of 8 degrees there in Royal Tunbridge Wells and Maidstone, highs of 10 in Canterbury. Pretty much the same going into tomorrow afternoon. More sun down south in Ashford and Dover, temperatures of 9 and 10. Tomorrow afternoon getting slightly warmer, 12 and 13 degrees across the county, wind speeds of 10 and 8. And here's your outlook. Looks quite sunny for Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday is going to bring back more of that familiar cloud, highs of 16 there on Thursday. Now it's time for a short break, but coming up, Kent County Council are running a consultation to see if a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit should be changed in Ashford. All that and more after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight here on KMTV. Next, Kent County Council are running a consultation on proposals to put a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on roads in Ashford that are 35 miles per hour. If approved, the project will cover parts of Bybrook as well as several streets near Spearpoint Recreation Ground and Trinity Road, as well as Lower and Upper Vicarage Road. To discuss this, our reporter Naila Mohammed joins me in the studio now to tell us more about this scheme. So I suppose my first question is just tell us about the scheme in general. What is it? Where did it start?
So it's like you said, it's a scheme to propose a new 20-mile-an-hour limit on roads that are currently 35 miles an hour. You can see on the screen here just how many roads this will come into effect. It's quite a large amount at the moment. And, you know, this scheme comes 4 years after the first 20-mile-an-hour scheme was put on roads that were 40 miles an hour. So it is something that they have done before across the area. Now, Kent County Council say that the initiative, which was first proposed by the Kennington Community Council, could reduce danger and make journeys smoother and safer, particularly in areas where there are local primary schools nearby, which are a huge concern when it comes to drivers going over the speed limit.
I see, and as you mentioned there, this is the full list. I fear we won't have time if I read all of it. There's 35 street names here. And am I right in saying the proposed scheme got quite mixed reviews from councillors? Sort of hearing about it without knowing too much, I would assume that people might be quite annoyed to have this go from 35 to 20. Tell me a bit about what people have been saying.
So it's like you said, from councillors, there's been a really mixed review. And one councillor, Winston Michael, from the Ashford Borough Council, questioned the proposal, saying that it would be almost impossible to enforce these new measures. I mean, obviously bringing a 35 mile an hour down to 20, so enforcing this would be quite difficult. And he was aware of this, he brought this into question. Another councillor, Alan Dean, said that these restrictions would be good, that would make the roads much safer place to be. But it's not just councillors who have mixed reviews about this, it's also the residents who are, some are happy about them, some are slightly concerned. One resident said that she liked the reasoning behind the new speed limits, but felt that money was being wasted if there weren't going to be new measures to enforce them, you know, echoing what the first councillor said. Another resident supported the idea, saying that, you know, if the driver in front of you is going 20 miles an hour, you will then also likely go 20 miles an hour unless you speed and overtake. So he says, by kind of echoing what other drivers are doing, it makes the roads safer for everyone. And then another resident did say, well, there's no need for these 20-mile-an-hour limits because there are so many potholes on the road anyway that it just slows you down, and that efforts should be focused on fixing the potholes rather than spending money on new 20-mile-an-hour signs.
I see. Thank you so much for that, Naila. Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website, kmtv.co.uk. There, you can find all our reports, including this one by our reporter Naila Mohammed, who went to Maidstone to chat to a father urging Kent County Council to add visual reminders of the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit over fears of safety.
This is Sittingbourne Road in Maidstone, where resident Craig Parrott is calling for speed enforcement measures to be introduced after a series of incidents. As it's a residential area, the maximum speed limit is 30 miles an hour, but Craig says drivers often exceed this limit. We went on a walk where he showed us where he and his family faced a near miss.
First rescue island's there on my right-hand side, there where I crossed with my children and my wife across this point. And then obviously, as you can see, the road probably up in the distance there where there's an arrow on the post, that's where the road narrows. And then vehicles come back down. I've had scenarios I was explaining earlier where we cross here and a vehicle has overtaken on this side of the road, and naturally you'd be looking right if you were crossing the road. And I went to cross with my children, and as I looked left, there was a vehicle overtaking on this side of the road because he couldn't cut back in quick enough.
He also says there was only one 30-mile-an-hour limit sign on the entire road, so I went on the hunt for it. The sign is at the top of Bearstead Road, where drivers were joined from the A249, and on the other side of Sittingbourne Road is Invicta Primary School.
A lot of young people and children cross these roads, so without a single visible reminder of the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, Craig is calling for some new measures to be put in place.
It should be highlighted it's 30 mile an hour, so more signage, potential road markings, 30 mile an hour painted every so often like you get in some areas.
According to KCC's current framework, 3 fatal or serious accidents must occur before a camera can be considered, which Craig says is 3 fatalities too many. In a statement, KCC said, "Our recent correspondence with the resident shows that several issues were raised, but requests for additional measures were not submitted. Current data does not indicate a widespread speeding problem. Issues such as overtaking around pedestrian islands relate to driver behaviour and are matters for enforcement. The existing limit is generally well observed." According to crash map data, in the last 5 years there have been 13 recorded accidents on Sittingbourne Road, including a report of an incident involving a 16-year-old boy hit by a car when crossing here just last year, and a planted tree that was knocked down after a car travelling too fast clipped the curb and knocked it down. The 46-year-old says he is concerned for the safety of his family and has even considered moving if no changes are made. Naila Mohammed for KMTV in Maidstone.
Next, Ashford Borough Council are being criticised for a parking ticket issued to a broken down bus. During early February, the bus's engine began overheating while it was driving through Tenterden High Street, which led the driver, Gary Young, to pull into an empty bus stop. The driver then briefly left the bus but was totally shocked to come back to find a ticket. A week later, another bus broke down on the same road and was also ticketed. Mr. Young's ticket has now been successfully appealed. However, the council still claims it was incorrectly issued in line with regulations. Now it's time to catch up with all the latest sports news around the county. And at the Gillingham match at the weekend, the midfielder Robbie McKenzie hoped that his last-minute goal has definitely boosted morale for the Gills. On Saturday, the Gills were in a stalemate away against Barrow in a League Two showdown, and it was looking like another week of misery would persist for Gillingham with the score at 0-0. But in the 13th minute of extra time, Robbie McKenzie put it into the net. The last gasp winner ended the run of 3 straight losses for the Gills as they claimed their first win over Barrow since 1967. McKenzie said that can lift us up and give us good confidence going into the next game. All we can look at is the next game and go into that with confidence. Next, we'll bring you a story about Maidstone United. Their manager, George Ellacobi, says that Taylor Foran is getting back to his best after injury. He was outstanding as at the back, according to the manager, as Stones collected another clean sheet in a 1-0 National League South win against Salisbury. At 22, the former Arsenal youngster is one of the most vocal players in the team, and he certainly made himself heard at the Raymac Stadium on Saturday. Ellacobi loves the vocal side to Foran's game and understood where his centre-half was coming from. He said he's got that in him. Those are the leadership qualities to ensure you can organise, you can affect, can you impact other players away from the ball? He added, it's not coming from a bad place, it's coming from a good place. Taylor is getting back to the Taylor that we know. He went on to say that obviously it was frustrating for him being injured, and when he came back, it took him a bit of time to find his feet again. Next, Canterbury fought their way to a 51-33 win over National League 2 East title chasers Undle on Saturday at home. Trailing 28-7 at the break, the City side's total domination of the next 40 minutes stunned Undle with 6 tries and a lesson in discipline and game management. The visitors, who had overwhelmed league leaders Old Albanians 45-14 the previous week, had every right to feel they'd done another good job with 4 first-half tries and a bonus point secured. Canterbury cured many of their set-piece problems that plagued them in the first part, kept up the pressure, causing Undle to lose their discipline and helping them to complete a great comeback. 5th-placed Canterbury returned to league action at London Welsh, who were 10th on March 14th. Next, the Tunbridge Juddians got back to their winning ways in National League 1 with a 31-28 victory against Sedgley Park. Having played the top 3 squads in the last division in the last 3 rounds and losing them all, Judge came out of the blocks quickly and Lewis Gaetama intercepted a park attack to speed over for the first try within a few minutes. 5 minutes later, Conor Lloyd sniped with a quick tap to dot down, and with Lloyd converting both scores, the TJs were up and running at 14-0. Park were beaten 56-0 at the Slade back in November and couldn't afford another thrashing. Park did started to come back, but time ran out for them, leaving the Juddians 7th in the standings. Tunbridge returned to action at the Slade on March 14th against 4th-placed Sale. Next, Ditton's Barry Hawkins has ended a 3-year wait for a ranking title with a 9-5 win over Jack Lisowski at the Snooker Welsh Open. Hawkins was up against Lisowski in the final at venue Kimry in Lalandio, and seemingly cruising after winning 7 of the first 8 frames. But needing just 2 for his first Welsh crown, the Ditton Potter lost the first 3 of the evening session. A fortunate red in frame 12 paved the way for a 68 break to get him back on course, but he had to wait one more frame after Lisowski's run of 53 made it 8-5. And that wasn't as good as it got for the Cheltenham man though, and Hawkins, who registered wins over former world champion Mark Williams and Neil Robertson on his way to the final, took frame 14 70-1. Hawkins said, "It means the world, really. I've come close a couple of times last season to a couple of big titles, and I feel like maybe I deserved this little one. I've been knocking at the door a little while. It's for you to lose, really. You know, 7-1 up. All of a sudden, things start going through your head, and it could be the biggest collapse of all time." And that is all for your sports news. Now let's take a look at the weather. It's going to be a slightly mild night tonight, cloudy overcast, all-round temperatures of 10 and 11 degrees across the coast. Tomorrow morning, sunny in Dover and Ashford, with light and cloudy skies for the rest of the county. Temperatures of 9 in the west and 10 in the east. Into the afternoon, warming up nicely, highs of 13 in Ashford, Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells, but a shy sun peering slightly through the clouds. And here's your outlook for the rest of the week. We'll be seeing sunny skies throughout Wednesday and Thursday, highs of 16, and that's your weather. Well, that's all the time we have for now. See you in just a few minutes. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 2nd of March. Save our schools. Parents of St Lawrence in Ramsgate protest over merger with school 50 minutes away.
I've got a lot of questions in my head, like why, what, is it, what's going to change in the school and stuff like that, but I don't know what's going to happen, and yeah.
Bear canvases, artists to decorate 86 bears that will line a Dartford trail.
So this summer we've got 86 bears in total coming to Dartford and Blue Water. We've got 30 large bears that you can see behind us that will be decorated by local and national professional artists.
And back in the green, Kent MS Therapy Centre are on course to save more lives thanks to golf.
This saved me when I was first diagnosed with MS because I thought it was going to be a death sentence. If I hadn't had the centre to come to, I would have had nowhere.
But first, St Lawrence School in Ramsgate has announced they'll be merging with Dover College, which they say is due to imminent financial pressures, and to show their frustration, parents protested at the school. Without the merger, the private college claimed they would have no choice but to close. But parents of students at the school say there was no correspondence with them before the decision was made. The school serves pupils from extremely young ages, like Year 3, all the way up to 6th form, and I went down to find out more.
We stand for the children who walked through these gates this morning unsure of what their future looks like. We stand for the teachers who have poured their hearts into the school and were given no warning.
Hundreds of angry parents and students marched at St Lawrence College in Ramsgate, all to protest the closure of the private school. This comes after the school's leaders said it would be moving to Dover College in September, which is more than 50 minutes away. The school said that without the merger, financial pressures meant they would have to close imminently, but the parents said it was the lack of transparency that was most difficult to bear. The parents say it wasn't a discussion, they were simply informed of the change. It may only be 16 miles, it may only be 45 minutes, but to these children, it's classrooms, it's friendships, it's teachers, it's bonds, it's mentors, and it's sports clubs. There are some children who are on sports scholarships that simply aren't put on at Dover College. There are so many questions being raised, and you can tell there is an air of unease and anxiety among the hundreds who have gathered to peacefully protest. Those hundreds, you may be asking, where are they? They're in the school grounds. Now, we can't go in there ourselves, but we've been catching up with some of these parents to hear about their views.
It's due to go into reception, so it's already at nursery here, but due to go into reception in September. And we have had all of our moving up meetings and our official offer letter, and then on Tuesday morning we found out of the blue that obviously the school is going to be merging with another school in Dover. Of course, for us it's just not appropriate to think about taking a child of reception age to Dover every single day.
But it wasn't just parents who were worried.
It's rubbish. I wanted to stay here till year 13.
But I didn't even know what happened. Like, it's a very big surprise to me. I've got a lot of questions in my head, like why, what, is it, what's going to change in the school and stuff like that, but I don't know what's going to happen, and yeah.
It's going to really affect the Ramsgate local economy and all the subsidiary firms that supply the college, etc. And plus the fact a lot of the staff actually live on site, so they would be forced out of accommodation. It's just unbelievable, really. It's been here 140 odd years.
A spokesperson for Repton Family of Schools said there is considerable upheaval in the independent school sector at the moment, with regular announcements of closures and mergers. Without immediate action, St Lawrence would regrettably have been forced to close imminently as a result of increasing costs, lower income and a historically high level of debt. This merger and the support of the Repton Family of Schools will protect the college's legacy, identity and ethos, and will ensure pupils can continue their education without the disruption that would have come from a sudden closure. For now, parents and students are using a GoFundMe to raise money for legal services, but the school remains steadfast in their decision, while questions continue to be raised about what can be done for the future, not just of the school, but of its pupils as well. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Ramsgate.
Am I reading to you?
Next, controversial plans to convert part of a historic pub into apartments have been thrown out. These were concerning 280 objections to a proposal to reduce the size of the Black Horse in Stansted and turn it into a wet-led micropub. Owners Danny Jarvis and Victoria Collier originally submitted proposals to Tunbridge and Morning Council in September and said the business was no longer commercially viable. Councillors unanimously rejected the application. The venue in Tumblefield Road dates back to the 18th century. Next, Pink Pantheress was crowned Producer of the Year at the Brit Awards on Saturday night. The pop star who grew up in Canterbury made history as the first woman and youngest ever winner of the prize. The win was announced at the ceremony at the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester. Previous winners include Sir George Martin, who worked with the Beatles, and Calvin Harris. And last year, as you can see here, she was made a Doctor of Music at Canterbury Cathedral by the University of Kent. Next, 86 fiberglass bears are being transported on the long journey from Poland to Dartford. But the journey of the people they're supporting is even longer. The sculptures will be decorated by schools, professional artists and community groups and will be displayed across Dartford and Bluewater to raise funds and awareness for hospice charity Eleanor. Kristen Hawthorne saw the bears being offloaded from the lorry earlier today.
They've arrived looking like polar bears, but soon they will be transformed into unique art pieces for a summer activity trail across Dartford and Bluewater.
The bears being offloaded on the lorry have come all the way from Poland. This is the first batch to arrive in Dartford, and over the next few days more and more will be coming. There'll be 30 large ones and 56 small ones, so 86 in total.
And if they look familiar, that's because they're inspired by the animated adaptation of We're Going on a Bear Hunt. But this isn't just a public art project. It's a scheme to raise funds for Eleanor, the hospice charity supporting children and adults across North Kent and Bexley.
So our art trail is around raising awareness about the work that we do within the community and the specialised end-of-life care, but equally it's about raising much needed money to ensure that our services continue.
In the story by Michael Rosen, a family face obstacles they can't go over or under. They have to go through them. Eleanor says that reflects the experience of many of the families it supports.
My father was in Eleanor's care when he passed away. It was actually eight years ago last Friday. He spent time at home with my mum looking after him, and then he went into Eleanor's care for a week to give my mum some time off, and unfortunately he passed away whilst in their care. I've run London Marathon for Eleanor before. Raising vital funds for a vital charity is always a good thing to do, and with such a personal touch to Eleanor, it makes it even more worthwhile helping.
Over the coming months, artists, schools and community groups will design each sculpture before they go on display across the borough.
We'd encourage families to get out and try and find all of the bears over the summer, so it will be in place from mid-July to mid-September, and we'll have a trail app as well, so you'll be able to download the trail app Dartford Bear Hunt, and you'll be able to collect all of the bears as you go round. And some of our incredible sponsors are also putting rewards in there for families, so as you collect a big bear you might get something like a free swim at Fairfield Leisure.
After the display ends, the bears will be auctioned to raise further funds for hospice care.
There's certainly some Dartford-inspired bears in there. There's going to be some very shiny bears as well, so you certainly won't miss those ones. And there's a lot of nature-inspired and those that are inspired by the book as well.
So from blank canvases to symbols of resilience, the summer's Dartford Bear Hunt will help support families facing some of life's toughest journeys. Kristen Hawthorne, KMTV in Dartford.
And Kristen joins me now. I mean, what an interesting story. Aren't our jobs just interesting? So what's next for these bears? I mean, you woke up this morning, you probably didn't think this was going to be what you were covering, but tell me about what's next for these bears.
Well, now that they've arrived, this is the first batch, so I think there's maybe about 2 or 3 more lorry fills of these different bears. So once they've all arrived, they're going to be sent to the artists and the schools and the different groups that are going to be painting them. So from March this month, really, until May, that's the bears painting period. So all the bears being offloaded then, they'll go from white to all sorts of colours, and like the woman said in the package, it is going to be shiny as well, some of them. And then they're going to have a merch shop opening where you can buy mini ones. So if you don't have a chance to paint some of the bigger ones yourself, you can get a smaller one and do that. They're going to have tea towels and cuddly bears, so lots to see there. The dates that you're going to be able to see them in Dartford and Bluewater is going to be from the 17th of July, which is the launch, until the 13th of September. After that, they're going to have a farewell weekend where all the bears are going to be in one location, and you can see them all at once really, and maybe compare your favourite ones and see what ones you like the best. And then on the 1st of October, that's going to be the auction. Some of the smaller ones have been kept over. They're just for the auction, but lots of other ones as well. And then on the bears, if you go and visit them, each one is going to have a QR code to where you can scan it and then find out more about different families that Eleanor has supported.
Amazing. And what's sort of the hope for the impact of these bears?
Well, for the impact, Eleanor, the hospice charity, they really just want to raise awareness for what they do and why they do it. And it's to keep their service running as well. So all the money from the auctions is going to go towards their charity. So yeah, Sue Perkins, the Director of Income, will explain that further.
So the money that we will raise will ensure that our work continues. So it's costing around about £26,000 a day to keep our doors open. We want to make sure that we're there to continue with increased demand on our services. So it's about making sure we're here, just not tomorrow, but beyond that for everyone that needs us.
Now it's time for one last break, but join us after that as we'll take a look at what events are coming up in Kent as the weather starts to improve. I'll also be chatting to our reporter Obafemi Odemayo about some of the top stories on Kent Online. All that and more after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, as always here in the Garden of England, there's plenty of news from across the county, whether it's congestion in Canterbury or demonstrations in Dover. And today's news features a repaired footbridge, bringing some joy to the village of Sandwich as they can trek their preferred path once again, as well as a gift shop in Tenterden overtaking another high street premises, and a Rochester kebab shop winning a national award. Obafemi Odemayo joined me earlier. And Obafemi joins me now. Obafemi, what story have you got for us today?
Well, today I've got 3 stories for us, but our first one is a pedestrian footbridge has been deemed unsafe for the pedestrians and they've been very angry about it. But following a £30,000 reinvestment, it has been deemed safe enough for pedestrians to walk across. So you see this wooden structure off Millwall pathway between Knight Rider Street and St George's Lees in Sandwich was found not to meet the safety standards for people to walk across. But now, following a £30,000 reinvestment, it's now been deemed safe enough for the people to walk across.
And sorry, what village, what did you say this was in?
This was in Sandwich.
Sandwich, so definitely some good news there for the people of Sandwich. Okay,
oh, yes.
Tell us about what other stories you've got for us.
Well, the second story I've got for us is a former town centre bank has been snapped up by a local woman who has a gift shop just two doors away from the establishment. So this woman, Tara McCara, who runs the Rising Star in Tenterden High Street, has purchased the town's former Santander branch.
Okay, brilliant. And is there any indication of what she's going to do with it?
Well, I'm going to take the guess she's just going to expand her business, because she has quoted by saying that she's not moving her little shop, she's just being greedy by expanding and making her business bigger.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, another spot for those in Tenterden High Street to stop and get some nice little gifts. All right. Oh, yes. Thank you, Obafemi. What other stories have you got for us?
Well, the last story I found is a Kent restaurant has scooped up the prize for the annual British Kebab Awards. So this restaurant called Bay Baba in North Street in Rochester has been crowned Fine Dining Restaurant of the Year.
Okay, brilliant. Anything else you can tell me about Bay Baba? Why is it? Any reason why it's particularly won?
Well, it says here it took home the ceremony at the Park Plaza in Westminster Bridge in London. The awards are their 14th year. They are in their 14th year and were established to recognise and celebrate the quality, diversity and success of the UK kebab sector. Winners are selected following public nominations and an independent judging process. So it's definitely from people of the public in Rochester liking the food.
Must be. And a very important question now. I prefer a lamb doner with garlic sauce. Do you, and salad, including jalapenos. What is your go-to kebab?
Well, I'd say the same. I don't mind chicken though.
Okay. Well,
chicken.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much for your time, Obafemi. And while you might be enjoying a kebab, don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you can find all our reports, including this one, where our reporter Kristen Hawthorne went to Jeskins Park to see if there was room on the broom for a journalist like her.
Over the fields and the forests they flew, as nature and nostalgia arrive in Cobham. The Room in the Broom activity trail has begun at Jeskins Community Woodland and will continue with different themes as the year continues. Throughout the activity trail, you have to find things like the witch's hat and wand, which we've already found, but there's also interactive boards. But these projects, they bring money back into Forestry England and into conservation. This is a frog.
So the funding from the trail goes into projects that we're delivering at Jeskins. So we've currently got a few projects going on, one being the reshaping, regrading of the 3 ponds that we have on site, and this is working with Natural England as well for funding, and then obviously joint with Forestry England for funding to support that project. And that will be being delivered between February and March, and that will be to encourage the great crested newt back in onto site. And then we also have the grazing project as well, so that every single visitor contributes a small part to helping us deliver these bigger projects.
In a world where entertainment is becoming more digital and infrastructure continues to grow, focus in the natural world can be a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it is good. I mean, for us as well, it's good. It's another part of, you know, something to educate them on as well. And with cattle and things being around, it's nice because it brings these things to life. And it's one thing being out in Kent, you get to see more of this. We're originally from London. I mean, there's a good social aspect as well because there's no media or things around to distract you. So it sort of like forces you to engage with others, which kids it comes pretty natural to. So it's nice.
No, I think, to be honest with you, they all do a really good job. Yeah, I think they look after it really well, and whenever I come down here, it's always really well kept, and yeah, that's why I come down here. Yeah, I think it's definitely not a place you'd want to start building on.
Forestry England say that one of their goals for 2026 is to make visitors more diverse. They say that one way they've been able to do this is by making the trail accessible.
Families, could be older couples, trying to get more diverse people. If we've got people with accessibility issues that want to come to site, the trail is set up that we've got hard standing paths, so it is accessible for all, and it just encourages more different groups to be able to come and enjoy it.
But of course, there is room on the broom for dogs as well. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Cobham.
Next, a Canterbury therapy centre supporting people with multiple sclerosis, commonly referred to as MS, says it can't survive without community funding. One member told us she believed her diagnosis was a death sentence until she found help there. Now, a local golf club has raised thousands of pounds to keep that support going. Kerry King went down to the therapy centre to find out more.
This saved me when I was first diagnosed with MS because I thought it was going to be a death sentence. If I hadn't had the centre to come to, I would have had nowhere.
On a one-on-one.
MS is a neurological condition affecting the brain and spinal cord. Around 130,000 people in the UK are living with MS, and an estimated 7,000 are diagnosed every year. It can cause extreme fatigue, loss of mobility, vision problems and chronic pain. For many in Kent, the difference between isolation and support is the Kent Neurotherapy Centre in Canterbury, which is an independent registered charity providing oxygen therapy, physiotherapy, specialist exercise and emotional support.
The donations that we receive from our local community are absolutely vital for allowing us to continue running the Neurotherapy Centre.
Members say it gives them strength physically and mentally.
It actually changed my life for the better because I knew what was wrong with me. I met people that also knew what it was like to live with MS.
But this centre receives no ongoing statutory funding from the NHS or central government. It survived on donations, memberships, grants and fundraising. Without them, the fundraising manager says it simply could not stay open.
So as a centre we have to raise £800,000 a year, and the donations that we are able to get from local sports groups, there's a really great way of us bringing in some of that additional funding, and the generosity that we find from those groups is just absolutely fantastic, and it really does make a difference of the day-to-day lives of our members here.
This week, volunteers organised a coffee open day, homemade cakes, a charity shop and fundraising activities filling the centre with supporters. And alongside that effort, Hythe Golf Club raised £4,000 through charity events, presenting the cheque during the open day.
Morning, Nancy.
Morning.
It's with great privilege to represent Hythe Golf Club in 2025 to hand over this cheque for £4,000 to the Kent Neurotherapy Centre. Please accept it on our behalf. Thank you very much.
For some, it's therapy. For others, it's friendship. For Arlene, it was hope when she thought she had none. And without donations like these, that lifeline would be at risk. Kerry King, KMTV, Canterbury.
Next, spring is on the way to Kent, and we've definitely felt it this week with the warmer weather. And now we're in March. So what's going on in Kent that should be on your radar? Well, I'm joined now by Megan Shaw to tell us more, and there's a lot of arts happening in March. Tell us about some of these events.
Absolutely. There's quite a few, as you mentioned, lots of art exhibitions in March. So all month, we've got the Ukrainian Art Month, and that's happening both at the Halpern Gallery in Chatham, as well as the Halpern Pop-Up in Rochester. You can see some of the inside of the art gallery in Rochester there. That's open from the 5th to the 7th of April, and it spotlights 6 different exhibitions by different Ukrainian artists such as Anna Moses and Natalia Revoniuk, and it's about focusing on identity and community, and it's free general admission as well. We've also got the My Hands and My Voice exhibition at the Beanie House of Art and Knowledge. That's this building on the screen between us. That's running from the 21st of March until mid-May, and that's been described as a posthumous mother-daughter collaboration between the mother Diana, who died in 2019, and her daughter Rochelle, and it's a textile display. There are tactile cloth books. There are lots of different, I suppose, patterns that Diana came up with and her daughter's taken on. So it's kind of about that familial relationship there. And as well, the Historic Dockyard in Chatham is hosting the UK debut of the Ocean Photographer of the Year exhibition, which is a very famous competition. And you've got some pictures on the screen there. So we're going to have 216 award-winning photographs displayed over the years throughout the competition, which is of course run by the Oceanographic magazine, and they've been selected for more than 15,000 entries, so lots on to see.
Absolutely. Are there any other events we should be keeping our eyes out for?
Yeah, there are quite a few. Obviously, we've got Easter coming up, so there's lots of Easter egg hunts round about Kent. There's some in Sevenoaks. That's on the weekend with the 21st of March in. There's a comedy festival in at Tonbridge between the 6th and the 8th of March. So lots of things to keep in your diaries across Kent in all different areas.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Meg. You've been watching Kent Tonight live here on KMTV, and as always, there's more news made just for Kent throughout the evening, so don't go anywhere, and you can also keep up to date with all of our latest news by logging on to kmtv.co.uk. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.